All right, today we're going to talk about a skill that, let's be honest, is no longer just a nice to have in our world. It's intercultural communication. And really, it's all about learning to see the invisible rules that shape how we all connect with each other.
You know that feeling, right? We've all been there. That moment where you say or do something that's totally normal for you, but it just lands wrong. And suddenly there's this weird, awkward silence. That's what it feels like when two cultural rulebooks just don't match up. And it's happening all the time.
And look, this isn't just about avoiding a little social awkwardness. In today's workplace, your team could be scattered across 3 different continents. Your next big client might be from right across town, but have a completely different cultural background. Getting a handle on these unwritten rules, that is a straight-up professional superpower.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. Every single culture runs on this kind of shared, unspoken understanding of social cues. It's like an invisible software we're all running. But when those cultures mix, boy, can things get lost in translation. Let's look at a couple of really fascinating examples.
Okay, let's start with something you probably do 100 times a day without even thinking about it: eye contact. In the US, holding someone's gaze pretty much says, I'm confident and honest, but in some Asian cultures, that same level of directness can feel really confrontational, maybe even disrespectful. It's the exact same action, but it's being interpreted in 2 completely opposite ways. And listen, neither one is right or wrong. They're just different rules for the same game. And this doesn't just apply to physical actions, it goes for big abstract ideas too, like how we see time itself. So in a place like Germany, being on time is everything. It's a huge sign of respect. But in some Latin American cultures, time is, well, it's a lot more fluid. An appointment might be more of a general suggestion than a hard deadline. So it's not really about one culture being late and another being on time. It's about a fundamentally different view of what time even means. So you see these differences, and it's one thing to just point them out, but how do you actually organize them in your head without trying to memorize a million random facts about every country? Well, that's where a framework is so helpful, and one of the best is Hofstede's cultural dimensions. It gives us a language to actually talk about these patterns. First up, we've got something called power distance, and this is all about how a culture feels about authority and hierarchy. So picture a business meeting. In a culture with high power distance, you'll probably see the team waiting for the boss to speak first, and you're not likely to see them question directly. But in a low power distance culture, an intern might feel totally fine speaking up and challenging an idea from a senior executive. Big difference, right? Next, there's this idea of collectivism versus individualism. You can basically think of it as a we versus me focus. In a collectivist culture, the team's success is what gets celebrated, way more than any one person's contribution. The whole group gets the credit. But in a more individualist culture, you're much more likely to see something like a Salesperson of the Month award, something that spotlights and rewards personal achievement. And finally, let's talk about uncertainty avoidance. This is all about how we deal with the unknown. So a culture with high uncertainty avoidance, they love predictability. They probably want a detailed 50-page project plan before they even start. On the flip side, a culture with low uncertainty avoidance is way more comfortable with ambiguity. They might be perfectly happy to kick things off with a one-page brief and just figure the rest out as they go. Okay, so this is a great framework. It's fantastic. But what does it actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Let's switch from the theory to the real world, where this knowledge can literally be the difference between success and failure. And here's the bottom line. In business, a one-size-fits-all approach is just a recipe for disaster. I mean, think about the huge retailers who failed spectacularly when they tried to expand overseas because they just didn't adapt their style. A sales pitch that crushes it in a highly individualistic culture could totally alienate a client from a collectivist one who really wants to hear about the benefit for the whole group. So what can you actually do about it? Well, it really boils down to this simple but super powerful 3-step approach. First, observe humbly. Just go in assuming you don't have all the answers. Second, ask curiously. Be genuinely interested in understanding their point of view. And third, and this is key, adapt flexibly. Be willing to adjust your own style to build that bridge. So when you put all of this together, what's the real goal here? What's the one thing that rises above everything else we've talked about? And this right here is the heart of it. This isn't just about damage control, trying to avoid saying the wrong thing. When you make an effort to show awareness and respect for someone's cultural background, you're communicating on a totally different level. You're showing them you see them, you respect them, and that is the absolute foundation for building real, lasting trust. So, I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. What's one cultural assumption that you have, maybe about time or directness, or even just how a meeting should be run, that you can consciously question this week? Because that journey to becoming a truly great communicator, it starts right there, in that one little moment of curiosity.